Hey, my sweet friends. Welcome to Southern Bella Home. I'm Sharon, and today I want to talk to you about something very near and dear to my heart. Actually, it's been very near and dear to my heart for a long time, probably longer than you believe. And that is preserving the harvest. But more specifically, I want to talk to you about some very creative ways to preserve the harvest. I've lived in the South all my life, and for as long as I've been around, I've been hearing women talk about putting up. Now, on a discussion board a couple of weeks ago, I saw someone pose the question, is putting up just a Southern phrase, or is that what people say all over the country? But they didn't say putting up, they said putting up. When it's said around here, it's putting up. And that means that you are taking the beautiful summer harvest, or the spring harvest for that matter, and you are putting it up for winter, for when the crops aren't growing. And so canning and preserving food is a way of planning ahead and having that beautiful home pantry full of delicious, good food. Even though it might be cold and gray outside, you can taste the sunshine with every jar that you open. Well, I've done a few creative things this year that I thought you might enjoy seeing and hearing about, because sometimes you can preserve and save things that you might think just need to be thrown away. But you can use them in very creative ways to make your home a better place to be as far as cleanliness, as far as good meals on the table, and it'll help you out financially when you can make use of things that you have and you don't have to go to the store and buy those things or things to replace those things. So let's talk about a few of the ways that I have preserved things this year that could have otherwise been thrown away. Now, I believe in good resources, and I love to find old recipe books. I have a pretty good collection of old cookbooks and recipe books, but I want to show you one that's very special to me. See this? So easy to can. There's a little story behind this book. When I was in the 6th and 7th grade of elementary school, it was elementary school at that time, I was in 4-H. And 4-H offered Saturday classes at our local farmers market on various topics. And they offered a canning class, and I went right by myself. No friends went with me, but I knew that was something I was interested in. So I went. I think it was actually a 2-Saturday session. I think we got 2 Saturdays out of it. And this was my book. And I've kept it all these years, and I can remember what we made. We made pickled peaches. So that's where my canning adventure started when I was around 12 and 13 years old. Another one of my favorite canning books is this old book, and it's called The Canning and Preserving Cookbook, and it's just full of good basic recipes, old recipes for preserves, conserves, chutneys, relishes, pickles, jams, jellies, dressings, chow chow. There's more words for different things you can make than you can shake a stick at. There are so many ways that people used to preserve the harvest a long time ago. Another one that I found last week at a thrift store, this is the Farm Journal's Freezing and Canning Cookbook. And I've already made something out of here. Finding a good old book might help you to find recipes for creative ways to put up the harvest. You know, back in the day, nothing went to waste. And I really treasure that idea. I value that because, you know, my garden journey this year, it began in January when I started pouring through the seed catalogs, laboring over what I would choose to grow, ordering those seeds, the excitement of getting those seeds in, and then my greenhouse was not finished, so my living room became my greenhouse. Hundreds of solo cups, dirt, spraying fish emulsion, fertilizer, all of that in the living room. I know, a little crazy, I know, but a girl does what she has to do, right? So anyway, I have so much invested, so much time and energy. We spent so much time building our raised bed gardens this year. That's one reason I don't have my chickens and my rabbits yet, because it took us so long to get the raised bed garden built, to get the gravel down between the boxes, to get a fence tall enough to keep deer out, and then to find the gates that we wanted, and then not to mention filling the boxes with dirt and getting everything planted and mulched and trellised. So, do you think I want any of that food to go to waste that came out of that garden? No sirree, Bob, I do not. I want to treasure and value every single morsel of food that's coming out of that garden. So, coming up with creative ways to preserve that is very important to me. And so I can hearken back to these old books because they thought like that too. Nothing was to go to waste. I don't know about you gardeners, but sometimes when I go out into that garden and I'm pruning or I'm cleaning things up, there might be a green tomato on the ground where a storm came through. Or I might knock some tomatoes off when I'm working around the bush. I've even cut some big green tomatoes by mistake, not meaning to. Now everybody knows about fried green tomatoes. I don't want to eat fried green tomatoes every single day. So this year I have come up with some different things with the help of these books. One thing I made that I was really surprised about was a green tomato marmalade. It's delicious, y'all, and it's out of one of these old books. Also, I'm gonna be making probably today a green tomato relish. And there's green tomato pickles, so there's just no end to what you can do. And I know now the bugs have been really bad this year, and the cucumbers and the tomatoes have been riddled with caterpillars. Well, you could go out there and pick those green tomatoes before those caterpillars get them, and you can make some good food to go in your pantry that you can enjoy all winter long. And I think your family will really like these things. If y'all are interested in some of these recipes, let me know, and I can take you along with me as I cook some more, because I really want to cook some more of the green tomato marmalade because it was so surprisingly delicious. I just love it. Another thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about was how on the farm table of years gone by, you didn't just have a meat and some vegetables on the table. Now, when I grew up, a table was not complete, ready for a meal, unless there was pepper sauce, which is just vinegar with peppers in it. And you would sprinkle that on all your greens and your vegetables. Also, they would have chow chow on the table, which is a cabbage and peppers and all kind of vegetables kind of in a wonderful spicy dressing. But all sorts of conserves and preserves. There is a difference. Preserves are where it's mostly just the fruit with a little bit of syrup, a little bit of sugar. A conserve is the fruits or vegetables in a very heavy, thick, sugary substance, and it's so good. It's so good, y'all. Anyway, I use really healthy sugar. I use the pure cane sugar, organic cane sugar on all my recipes. So if you don't know about GMO beet sugar, do a little bit reading on that. You might want to change up what you're using in your kitchen. Another thing I did this year is I had boundless supplies of cherry tomatoes, one in particular, and that is Barry's Crazy Cherry. I tell you what, y'all, that will be a part of my garden as long as I have those seeds. This is my bowl of Barry's Crazy Cherry tomatoes that I picked yesterday. One day, y'all. Now I have 3 or 4 of these plants, but I have one plant that is just like crazy. I guess that's why it gets its name, because it is loaded every single morning. I wish you could just smell. I mean, these things, what I have found in the past with a yellow tomato is that they didn't have that good of flavor, but these have a full tomato flavor. They have the acid, they have the sweet. I love them. And because I have so many of them every day, I had to figure out some way of preserving those, because yes, we eat them in our salad. Yes, we pop them in our mouth the whole time we're in the garden, or when they're laying on the counter, we just grab a handful every time we walk by. But you know what I did? I decided I'm gonna make some salsa out of those things. I think it would be really good. So, yes ma'am, I did. I pricked every one of those little tomatoes and I parboiled them in some water to get the skin off. I took the skin off of every one of those little tomatoes, and I used jalapenos and all my little seasonings and spices, and I made an awesome Barry's Crazy Cherry salsa. If y'all want to see that, comment below. And I got so many of them coming out, I know I'm going to make some more salsa. So I'll take y'all along with me if you're interested in that. Another thing I did this year that I've always wanted to do, and a good friend of mine, Jareth from Reap What You Sow Homestead, encouraged me to do it. I preserved my dandelions this year. I made dandelion jelly and I made dandelion tea. So I was really excited about that because the dandelions have been prolific this year. And we left them for the pollinators for a long time. So we let them get taller than we normally do because my husband loves him a pretty clean yard, and I do too. But we left them for the bees for a little while this year, and that allowed me to go out and harvest some and preserve that for the family to eat. My boys say that it tastes like apple jelly, so they really like it, and it's really good on hot buttery biscuits. Okay, y'all, here on my dining room table, I have set out the things that I have preserved so far this year. Here is the first batch of yellow salsa, the yellow tomatoes, the Berry Crazy Cherry salsa that I made. Now this one I put red peppers and jalapenos in. So the red peppers give it a very distinctive flavor. And then this one, I did not do the red peppers, I just did jalapeno peppers, and it's really good too. This one has it almost tastes like something you could use on a marinade for like a chicken marinade or pork chops or something like that. Would be really good for that. This, I think I could eat this whole jar with some good tortilla chips. Really good, y'all. All right, here I made some of the Gemini Homestead pickles that she has a great video on making these pickles, and they turned out great. They're the kind that you soak in the lime water and it gives them that good crunch. This is the first pickle I think I've ever made that I really liked because I've been looking for that crunch, and now I know how to do it. Thank you, Gemini Homestead. Now, this is treasured. This is my elderberry syrup. This is my flu prevention for the year. Now, last year, when my husband and I went to visit some of his family in New York, we brought home 3 elderberry bushes. They did great last year. They did awesome. This year, they're just, I think the deer got a hold of them. So I did not have a lot of my own elderberries. I've got to fix that problem. But my husband was kind enough to go foraging on my son and his wife's family's farm down in South Georgia, and they have elderberries everywhere. So he foraged out there for me and got me a big old bucket full of elderberries, and this week I was able to get 3 good bottles of elderberry syrup, and I will give these to the boys and my husband teaspoon every morning, and we're gonna try to fight off that flu before it hits us this year. That is one thing. I'm like, I don't know. I was searching for elderberries every time I rode down the road. Anybody else like that? I mean, like, my eyes were peeled looking for elderberries. Finally, it got so funny, my husband was laughing at me about it. He's like, you see elderberries everywhere we go. All right, another thing I wanted to show you. Can you see how beautiful that is, the color? This is the green tomato marmalade that I was telling you about. This stuff is so sweet, and in my opinion, it tastes a little bit like cherries. I mean, I know that sounds strange, but it's got a lemony taste, but a little tiny bit of an aftertaste that hints at tomato. But it's really a good way to use your green tomatoes, y'all. I have several jars of blueberry jam. This is my husband's favorite thing that I can. I've been doing this for probably 10 years. This is called cowboy candy. Now, he used to buy a product called Cajun candy. And so I went online looking for recipes a long time ago for candied peppers. But I didn't know anything about Cajun candy. I knew I wanted to make candied peppers. So when we met, we've been married 6 years, so about 7 years ago, when we met, he tasted my candied peppers and told me it tastes like Cajun candy. So I did find a recipe online called cowboy candy, so that's what we call it. We call it our cowboy candy. It's just a lot of different peppers and onions and garlic, and he loves it with bratwurst and hot dogs. So that's what we usually eat it with. But it's also really good like in potato salad, things like that, deviled eggs. It's also really good. Now, I want to talk to you about this. This is our green beans. So, green beans have been a challenge for me this year. I've never had a challenge with green beans before. I've always grown the light green asparagus beans and Kentucky Wonders. That's usually my go-to beans. And I've sometimes canned them separately, sometimes together. This year, we have had such a bad insect infestation. I've been fighting it constantly with neem oil and various things. What I did to be able to preserve the harvest, every day, it didn't matter if I only got 5 beans that day. I would come in, I would wash them, I would snap them, and then I put them all in one collective bag in the freezer. And when my bag, my gallon size plastic bag got full, I canned green beans. So that's what I did this week, and that's what I'll continue to do because I'm determined to have green beans in my pantry for the winter. I want that, and I'm not giving up on it just because those bugs are fighting me hard. So that's a good way for you to be creative. Just grab those beans, stick them in the freezer, and once you get a good pile of them, do your canning. Last but not least is salsa. Now, I've already shown you the yellow berries crazy cherry salsa, but this is our red salsa, and I've already put up about 20 jars of salsa. I only have 4 of the little half-pint jars, but most of them are in pint jars. I've given several jars away as gifts, and this stuff, I cook with it all winter long. I put it in chili, taco meat, sometimes spaghetti sauce. We just love, love, love salsa. So as soon as I get tomatoes, you know what I do? I separate out some for us to eat fresh, and the rest goes to salsa. Pretty much, yep, goes to salsa. I haven't done ketchup. I've seen a lot of people doing homemade ketchup now, and I may give that a try, but this stuff is just so enjoyed by all of us. We love Mexican food, so I put a lot of importance on salsa. And this year, one of my big goals was to be able to put up enough salsa for us to enjoy all year because most salsas have MSG in them, y'all. And my family's very sensitive to that. It gives us migraines and stomach aches. So I really wanted to put up our own salsa so that we didn't have to worry about that. It would be all organic with no chemicals, no additives, none of that. So I think I'm gonna be able to do it, y'all. Well, here you go, folks. So far, this is what we have in our old farmhouse pantry. It's looking pretty good. Trying to be creative and think of ways to save every little morsel coming out of that garden. And so far so good. We have a lot of summer left and a lot more good things coming out of that garden and a lot more good things going into my pantry. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned a little bit about how to be creative in preserving the harvest. Don't forget that about the beans, y'all. Just pick any beans that come, stick them in the freezer, and then you can can them. You know, the same with tomatoes. You can just stick your tomatoes whole in a big zipper bag in the freezer, and when you get enough, then you can make your batch of salsa. So that's a good creative way to use the harvest. Look around and look in some good old cookbooks. Now, I know about the Ball Blue Book of Canning, but if you have any other old cookbooks that you use that have great canning recipes, heritage recipes, I would love to hear about. So tell me about those in the comments below. Also, I would really love to hear how you preserve the harvest. I'm sure some of you have very creative things that you make, things that just enhance your pantry for the coming year. So share those with all of us in the comments below. Tell us what you do to creatively preserve the harvest. I hope y'all have a wonderful garden season for the rest of the summer. I hope you take a chance and try to can something if you've never canned before. And those of you who are veteran canners, I'm right there with you in the kitchen. We're working hard and pushing out those canned products for our pantry, and I hope that you have wonderful success and have a lot of fun doing it, and I hope your family loves the food that you make. If you're not a subscriber, I would be so honored if you would subscribe to my channel. I try to cover all the bases of home and homestead, and ring that bell. That'll notify you every single time that I make a video, and you won't miss any of them. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll be talking to you soon in the next video. Bye, y'all.